Well, hello, welcome to Larry Talks Tech. I'm Larry, and today we're going to talk about why I bought a 2013 Mac Pro. And this is a pretty interesting computer to me, and I've had a number of Mac Pros. The latest one, prior to this one, was a 2008 built-to-order Mac Pro, 8 cores. Great machine, loved it. But in the last few weeks, it absorbed 16 gigs of its 24 gig memory bank, and I don't know what in the world was going on in that thing. But I thought, this thing is getting pretty well up there, and I have ridden that horse a lot. Maybe it was time just to put it out to pasture. So I started thinking about what my next computer might be, and the Mac Pro 2013 seemed to interest me, and I thought, well, let me dig into this thing a little more. And it seems it was kind of the orphan of the Mac Pros, and which is pretty sad. So there's a lot of people that don't like it. A lot of people think it was just a complete failure. And I guess it depends upon what your definition of failure is. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So I thought, well, to get started with this, let's kind of compare it with, I know this is a stretch, but work with me, a dodo bird. So let's take a look at this little bird for a minute. And off the island of, I think it's, my memory is a little foggy here, but I think it's Mauritius. And it's an island off the coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. This bird survived there for thousands of years. And the good news is they were very successful living there, no problems. The bad news is they did not develop any sort of defense mechanisms. They might have had some to protect themselves from one another, but the dodo bird couldn't fly. It wasn't exactly what you call a speedy runner. It had no real fear of other things because it was the apex predator on the island, if you want to call it that. But there were no other predators there. So it had evolved in this sort of peaceful environment and was doing very successfully there. Somewhere around 1507, a Portuguese sailing ship landed. And from that point on, the dodo's life is beginning to change. Along with the sailors who saw the birds and probably ate them, they brought rats and cats, and as more and more ships came, you had more and more rats and cats and more sailors and even hogs. And so the environment for the dodo bird changed dramatically. And by 1684, I believe, there was no more dodo birds. They were gone. And sadly, there was nobody or nothing moved in to save them. That whole species of birds was just totally obliterated. Okay, so hold that cheery thought, and let's go to the Mac Pro. And the 2013 Mac Pro was initially, and I can only speculate, in 2013, Tim Cook took over the realm of, or 2012, 2013, somewhere in there, he took over the realm of Apple as the CEO. They wanted, and still I think needed to show the world they were innovative, and this device was one of the pieces, I believe, that they were going to do it with. So the 2006 to 2012 Mac Pros was a totally different species in the 2013. They were floor towers, pretty heavy, most of them around 50 pounds. I've had a half a dozen of them or so. They were easy to work on. You could flip a little lever on the back, one whole side drop down. Your hard drives fit on little caddies, and they slide in. You have a place for 4 hard drives. And they're hot swappable. You could slide them in, slide them out. There was no ribbons or anything that needed to hook up the hard drives. You just put it on the caddy, pushed it in, click, you're ready to go. The expansion bays held room for 3 or 4 PCI or PCIe adapters. Their video was probably their weakest link. I think the one that I had, the 2008, was upwards somewhere close to $10,000 in 2008 dollars, and it had probably $125, $150 video card in it. 512 megs of RAM, and that was the for the GPU in the card, and that was the updated version of the card. The kind of the weakest link, but the strongest part of it, besides, I think they were probably on the cutting edge of the architecture every time one of these things came out. And I think they owned the market for professional designed and used computers. You could work on them very easily with that side door. If you had something in a production environment and it wasn't, if you had the parts, it would not be down long. You could put that thing right back to work. And from my own experience in business, time is money, and a computer sitting there not functioning, especially if you need it to for designs, graphics, video editing, whatever you bought it for, that was a big loss. So you had to get in there quick, get it fixed, and get it back up on its feet. And these guys were easy to work on, a lot of room for updates. So you could do numbers of things with them, and they were very strong, powerful tools. Now in 2013, Johnny Ives, I believe he was the lead designer on the 2013 Mac Pro, came up with a total different concept. So the Mac Pro, being, I think, a industry leader in commercial focused computers, came up with a device that was 1/8 the size of the existing Mac Pros. It was a cylinder, and he had, I think, if memory serves me right, before he came with Mac, he was with another design firm, and he had showed a similar device to them then, before he joined the company. So I think this is something that was probably on Johnny Ives' mind for a while. In any event, this thing is 1/8 the size of a regular Mac Pro, which sat on the desk. A lot of folks said call it a trash can because of its cylindrical shape. I can already say that. Anyway, and that's where it got its nickname. To me, it kind of looks like an Art Nouveau flower pot. All right. The outside is like a chrome or stainless steel looking finish. You can take one button. The good news is you could take one button, push it in, pick up the cylinder cover, and then you had access to all the parts on the inside. The bad news is there wasn't much you could do once you got in there. You had an option of 3 video cards, D300, D500, and I think a D700. And that was it. And these cards were on special boards, and they were literally an integral part of the board. So it wasn't like you could go down to Best Buy and buy another video card and stick it in there. You're pretty much stuck with that. They had a PCIe solid state drive, again, on its own board. And it has a proprietary connector. So you had to use the Apple version of that drive to get it to work. Now there are, I think right now, I think on the market you can buy adapters for that. But at the time this thing was introduced, that's what you got. So wasn't many options on the inside to do anything. Now think of all the room for storage that the prior Mac Pros had. These have, that's it. The solid state drive, that's your room, and that's your option. So they have a number of Thunderbolt adapters on one section of the computer, as well as USB adapters. I think they're 4 and 4, but I have to grab mine right now and take a look. I think there's like four of each types. And I think the thought process is that the user would go ahead and plug additional drives into those ports, external ports, and which of course makes up for not having a space on the inside because you can't put anything else in there. So that might have been the beginning of its end. So when these guys first came out, you can read like PC Magazine, and then the different magazines gave them pretty much rave reviews. Remember, this was 2013, so it was the top of the Apple food chain then. And they were expensive. They were. I've seen different numbers, 2,500 or $3,000, and I don't know if they started out at 25 and went to 3,000 or the other way around. But anyway, the entry level was in that range. So these weren't cheap computers. And a fully loaded one, I think the top one was in 2013 was 10 cores, and I think the only real change they made to the whole product line was 216, 217. I think they added a 12-core option, and they dropped off the entry core, which was a single quad-core processor. So your options were slim. When you take a look at it by itself, it's a very attractive design, I think. Also, I didn't mention that the shape of it was designed to deal with thermals. So you had a fan at the bottom, and the air blows up through the center of the computer, which is why it's cylindrical. Okay, and the air goes up to the top. So pretty cool design, pretty good thinking. But then you take a look at it and you start adding things. So imagine you got 2 or 3 external drives hooked up to the thing. You've got couple cables out for monitors. You've got who knows what else, cables for different things. And it sort of looks like something from an alien from from a space movie or something, some science fiction movie. Yeah, so all this beauty kind of goes away. Now, you can turn it around. Obviously, if you had it on your desk, you'd have all the cables going to the back. But the problem with that is, I think in some settings like mine, the on-off button is on the same little external board where all the ports and stuff are. So you would find yourself reaching around under the computer, feeling for the on-off button to turn the thing on or turn it off, which is why mine has all the cables facing forward, and I can just go in there and go boop and do it that way. So this thing comes out, rave reviews, and then all of a sudden the pros start looking at it and say, "Wait a minute, I can't work with this thing." It's $2,500 to $3,000 already. Now I'm going to be adding drives on top of that, and drive cases and so on. I'm limited to what I can do in terms of video cards and graphics, and there was some, I mean, a lot of pushback on it. I remember that. So it began to feel negativity very quickly. Now, for some reason, and I'm not quite for sure. I mean, it's obviously designed to have these options mounted externally and accessories mounted externally. And there's a number of things I think Apple could have done to help support this computer. But for some reason, they chose not to. I believe this thing went through its whole life cycle of about 2,800 some odd days without any updates at all, other than the addition I told you to the product line. So it was basically a 2013 computer until the day it was yanked off the sales floor. So there was like no updates. They had one problem. There was some problems. Not one problem. There was a problem with thermals. Some of those, I'm not for sure if some of that was bad chips or some of it was just actually bad design in the thermals, and it took affected most of the computers that were not the entry level, because obviously more cores putting out more heat, and the GPUs and so on with increased RAM and all that sort of stuff was developing more heat, and it was more heat than I think that people had thought. I mean, I've looked on Reddit and I've seen people with a big fan on top of the case to help keep it cool. Now, I've had mine for months here, like 2013, and I haven't had any heat problems with it at all. The thing, I don't know when mine was made. It could have been made anywhere between 2013 and I imagine 2017. I think Apple pulled them off the shelves in 2017, and part of the reason I think that was, I think the Mac Mini at that point would outperform, or certainly perform at the same level as their top tier computer, the Mac Pro. So it did make sense not to keep it at the top seat of the food chain for Apple. Also, where they were promised a new Mac Pro, and I think it came out 2018, 2019, which is reverts pretty much back to the earlier design, having a door open and easy access and more room for things. So that's the kind of what happened to it. It just got left alone. The design, I think, it's fully functional, and I think if this thing had been a Mac Mini and priced in that price range, people would be applauding it today, But at $3,000 to $10,000, a machine that you could not keep going and keep updating with the later technology, you were kind of stuck with where it was the day it was born. Not much you could do with it. And I think that's where the pros lost their feeling for it. So now back to the Mac and the Dodo comparison. Well, one thing's for sure, they're both extinct. Okay, that's the first thing you can count on. I think the next, they found themselves in an environment that they were not fully able to function in, and it ended up killing them both off. They were both, nothing wrong with the design of the bird. The bird was healthy, it had been there for thousands of years. I don't think there's anything really technically wrong with the design of the computer, except it just missed the mark for what the people wanted in the professional realms. And I mean, another example of this might be the Ford Edsel. They built a car they thought people wanted with with all the accessories and the style and look and so on, and even people said they wanted it in the focus groups. But at the end of the day, it didn't turn out they bought it, so or bought enough of them. So I think that was the deal. When I look at the computer and see what it is and how it functions, I think it's a good deal. If you can buy it at the right price, I think it's a good deal. You have to realize its limitations, but again, at the right price, it was worth having, and that's how I got into looking around for this. So I'm going to give you some more specific reasons here. So here we go. One of the things I need to kind of get my head around was my wants and needs for this computer. I really wanted badly the Mac Mini, and the M2 chip right now, as I record this, it's about $600, and that's a heck of a buy for the quality and power of that computer. It's an amazing little machine. On the other hand, do I need all that power? And the answer is no. I needed something that let me run my video editor, which is DaVinci, my graphics, which is GIMP, and any writing that I do, which is LibreOffice. These aren't resource heavy, and the 2013 Mac Pro would be able to handle them very, very easily. So the issue here is, as far as what I wanted and what I needed, the Mac Pro really fits the needs well. Well, the next thing I was considering, of course, would be the design and durability of the computer. And I'm buying a used computer, so how much age does it really have, and wear, and so on. So there is some risk there, but you're buying a computer, at least I am buying a computer that's designed for commercial use and heavy system resources running all the time. So in my environment, in my world, it won't get anywhere near what it would have got in its former lifespan. And as far as the chip issues that I mentioned earlier, if there were problems with the chips, they would have materialized a long time before now. So I think the ones you see on the market, probably, now I can't say always, but probably chip issues pretty much taken care of. Apple recalled them, and I'm not aware that was an ongoing problem. So in any event, again, at this point in time, if there was a problem with chips, that was showing up a long time ago. But in any event, I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so finally, I think the most important piece here, of course, is I'm going to stress, is price. And I got mine on eBay for it's the quad core single CPU. Mine has 16 gigabytes of RAM. They came with 12, but this is Apple memory, but it has 16 gigs of Apple memory in it. Probably around $3,300, I would suppose, new. I paid $275 for it, okay, on eBay. So to me, that's a good price, and especially for what it is, I think that's a great price. So as you look at these, I think the things that, if you're interested in one of these, watch your pricing on it. All right, because the closer that thing gets to $600, you know, the less I would be interested in one and just buy a Mac Mini. That is one heck of a computer. All right, so I would, at $275, this thing's fine with me. It's perfect. It was the right price, the right computer, the right price, uh, uh, with all the right characteristics that I needed. But that number, and I've seen some of these things loaded, 128 gigs of RAM and blah, 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 all this stuff on them. Get $400 or $500. And I'm telling you, a Mac Mini is so far ahead of what this thing can produce. It would not make any, to me anyway, would not make any sense at all. If it was a $450 computer, I mean, I'd spend the other $150 and get a Mac Mini in a heartbeat. I wouldn't think about it. I'd buy it. So I would say where I was looking at, my max price would have been $325 to $350. Now, I would not spend any more than that on one. You let your judgment be your guide. You can get these things with all sorts of different types of setups, and the D700s, and like I said, 128 gigs of RAM and so on, or whatever. Just would not be worth it. I just get the Mac Mini and be happy. Okay, but you can get it for one equipped the way you want it. $350 or less, and it probably makes sense. Okay, just depends what you want to do. All right. So those are the reasons. I think this is for me. I found the right way to go. Okay, so in conclusion, after going through this, and I gave you a little history and some of the things that I was thinking about and what ultimately led to my buying decision. I think for me, like I said before, it's the right computer at the right price, and for what I need, it's perfect. I think there's some irony here, though. If you take a look at the Mac Mini or Mac Mini Pro, a lot of, the iMac and so on right now, they're pretty much sealed units themselves. As a matter of fact, you can change the memory in the 2013 Mac. You can upgrade it or replace bad chips. On the new Macs, everything's pretty much sealed. So you get the storage space you want up front, you get the video you want up front, and you're not changing it. so it's there. I think that's kind of funny, because that's the same thing that brought this one down, was its inability to do that. Yes, you're talking to a broader market with the Mac Mini and the iMac and so on. I get that. I get the change. These aren't total pros, but when you get the Mac Mini Studio or whatever they call this one built for design, you're over $2,000 for that, and it's still a sealed unit. So they have, from where I sit, unless I'm missing something, less ability to work on them or upgrade them than the 2013 Mac Pro. Funny how things change, huh? Well, all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for staying through all of this, if you did. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And with that, y'all have a good day. Thanks for coming by.